Thank you everybody for joining us. My name is Sauramadan. I run Asia Pacific business here at MoEngage. I've been with the company just about 3 years and I'm very excited to be welcoming some of the guests I'll introduce briefly. But before I do that, so over the last 2.5, 3 years, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of tech companies in the Southeast Asia ecosystem, all across Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand, all the way Australia, New Zealand as well. Helping companies understand and discover new use cases that will generate new income streams for them, help them optimize their tech stack, help them understand how they could probably consolidate platforms and reduce cost, many things. And very fortunate to work with a lot of senior folks. And once in a while, I identify some senior folks that I start learning from more than I know, which adds a lot of value in my life. So today I'm hosting a webinar with 3 of such folks where I have learned a lot from these people. Some I've known for a good 2 years, some I've known for 1 year, some I've known from very recent times. So I'll briefly do an introduction. I'll tell you how do I know them, and then I'll let them introduce themselves, and then we'll kick off this webinar. So first off, let me introduce and welcome on board Nadine Yap, Chief Product Officer of Telekom Media, the Asian parent based out of Singapore. Nadine, can I have you on board, please?
Hi there. Hi, everyone. As Saurabh said, I'm the Chief Product and Technology Officer of theAsianparent Inc. is our holding company. And that holds theAsianparent, which is the #1 parenting community platform in Southeast Asia. And it also owns Mama's Choice, which handpicks the best natural ingredients to develop pregnancy and breastfeeding products that are safe, halal, and natural. And we also own WebDreta, which is the largest Vietnamese women online community. I'm based in Singapore, and my career spans software development, product management, and product marketing at various startups in the US and Singapore, as well as at Amazon in the US itself and Yahoo in Southeast Asia. And I also am an adjunct professor teaching digital product strategy at NUS Institute of System Science.
Thank you, Nadine. Such a great introduction. So you're also a teacher, which I've known for a while. I'll come back to you in a bit. There's a lot of questions I have for you today, and I'm sure there will be questions from the audience today. So if anybody has any questions for Nadine during the course of today's conversation, please feel free to put it in chat. Next off, let me introduce Khairul Safri from Telekom Malaysia here in Kuala Lumpur. Nadine, you can keep your video on.
Hi, Saurabh. Hi, everyone.
Khairul, so tell us about what you're doing at Telekom Malaysia. So Khairul's been at Telekom Malaysia 21, 22 years?
Yeah.
Is that right? 22 years? Yes. Tell us what you're doing there. What is your journey of joining Telekom Malaysia, all these 22 years, what you've done? I'm sure people in Malaysia and Singapore know Telekom Malaysia, but we actually have a few people who've joined Far East from Vietnam and Philippines. For them, tell us, what does Telekom Malaysia own in the telco world?
All right. So I'm Khairul Safri. I work for Telekom Malaysia, which is the national telecommunication company of Malaysia. Our main products is for consumer market, the home fiber broadband and also mobile plans. Personally, my position is I'm the head of digital insights and strategy for Unify, which is our consumer connectivity product. We are a government-linked company and used to be a government department back in the 80s. You can consider our company to be old in comparison with other companies we have here. And as you can imagine, our challenges is transforming and adapting to digital age and to compete with other digital natives. Yep. So I've been quite a while. I think I've been forever with Telekom Malaysia. I work in HR. I work for wholesale department, for global department, for the digital transformation department. And now I'm in the line of business for the consumer market, which is Unify.
Thank you. Thank you, Khairul. So Khairul and I have known each other when Telekom Malaysia came on board with us in, Khairul, top of my head, it was December 2020. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think so.
So that relationship's gone from Telekom Malaysia coming on board as a partner with us, starting to use MoEngage. And over the last 2 years, new use cases getting implemented across website, email, app, And we continue exploring new use cases, which I'll get to shortly. But thank you so much for joining us today. Just hold on. Let me introduce our final guest for today, Fajar, somebody I met very recently who came on board with MoEngage. Fajar is co-founder and chief technology officer of a company called HappyFresh. Thank you for joining us, Fajar.
Thank you for having me. So
yes, please go on. Tell us about yourself. Tell us about things you've done and what is HappyFresh doing in the market today.
Yes. So as Saurabh said, I'm the co-founder and CTO of HappyFresh. HappyFresh is an online grocery service. We partner with local supermarkets and try to provide weekly groceries for our customers. We've been around for quite some time, not as long as Telekom Malaysia for sure. So 8 years now. I think in the startup world, 8 years is not short. I think it's probably considered midterm, right? So been experienced with quite a lot of customer engagement tools when we were working on HappyFresh. I think up to now, we switch around up to 5 customer engagement tools since we started back in 2015, which finally we ended up staying with one of the tools prior migrating to MoEngage. And I think we used them for about 3 years now. So HappyFresh started, like I said, in 2015. We started in our operation in Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand. But unfortunately, due to the economic situation, we had to stop our operation in Malaysia and Thailand. So now we are only focusing in Indonesia. So I'm based in Jakarta, born and raised in Jakarta. And I've been in technology startup ecosystem since way back then, I think around 2005, 2006. Had a chance to work together with Nadine when I was in Yahoo, and then did a few startups before finally doing HappyFresh until now. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Fajar. I was one of the early users of Yahoo. Back in the day, I had a Yahoo Mail email as well. I can guarantee there's a few people in this webinar who've never used Yahoo. So that kind of discloses what age group we come from. But you know, when somebody talks about Yahoo, it takes me back to my childhood, or me, you know, as an early teenager. So the fact that you guys were working at Yahoo when I was a user, a lot of respect, because that was one of the most leading web products back in the day. So we'll kick off today's conversation. And like I said, if anybody's got any question, please feel free to put it on chat. We've got some heavyweights in the room today. The common theme here is we see a lot of organizations investing in tech stack, all the way from your hosting layer, which could be physical data centers, Cisco, IBM servers, then leading to cloud data centers like Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Azure. And one layer down comes applications like MoEngage, which is hosted on AWS at the moment. And that's where we are able to provide a service to companies like you. So common theme I see is in the data center space, typically you've got 2 top options, Google Cloud or AWS. But one layer down when it comes to marketing tech stack. So it's easy to decide AWS, GCP, depending on your engineering, who's giving you better credits. One layer down when it comes to customer engagement. A lot of companies test out what's working, they'll do POCs, etc. And common theme with Telekom Malaysia, HappyFresh, and the parenting, you've used other products in the past. Khairul was using one product, Telekom Malaysia were using something back in 2019 when they migrated to MoEngage. So that journey is 2.5 years old. Parenting, top of my head, was almost two years ago when you guys migrated to MoEngage, and HappyFresh is the latest edition, which we're very proud of. That was again 6 months ago when HappyFresh almost came on board, 5 to 6 months ago. So what leads to this? Because you know, investing in tech stack and then migrating to a different provider, there are multiple reasons. And I want to hear from you guys, and I want the audience to get an opportunity to hear from you. When did you realize it's time to move to a better platform? What were the problems that you were trying to solve that you couldn't solve with the old one? And there's 3 different verticals also here, you know, telco, digital first, and e-commerce. What was that moment when you realized, okay, we need to find something else? Can I start with perhaps Nadine first?
Yeah, sure. So very soon after I was brought into the theAsianparent, looking at the tools that they were using, they'd not had a CTO or a chief product officer before me. So they were using a combination of tools for all of their CRM needs. Some, as many startups kind of try to save money, we were using a Sendy, which is freeware, and we were also using another competitor of MoEngage. Now with the freeware, we were having the happy problem of really scaling out of it. And so there were lots of crashes and delays in getting emails out, and lots of stuff was very manual to do. And then with the competitor, we weren't even fully utilizing all the functionality that we could have. So I started the process of trying to migrate the freeware kind of emails onto the competitor product and sort of really ramping up the usage of the tool. Since we're paying for it, we may as well use it, right? But we did run into problems with deliverability and responsiveness. And so at that time, we looked around in the market to see what else might be available and, what else is out there for us to use as the scene is very dynamic. Things are moving very quickly.
Thank you, Nadine. You mentioned deliverability and responsiveness. Can you please elaborate for our audience? What do you mean by deliverability, please?
Yeah, sure. So if we send out 100 push notifications, how many of them actually get received by a user? That's kind of deliverability, and responsiveness in general is just with the team, right? So if we report an issue or a problem, how quickly is it acknowledged and work, how well do they work with us to resolve the problem?
Got it. To sum it up, I picked up 3 key things here. Scale was an issue for you guys. A lot of things were manual, which means you probably needed something a little bit more automated. And the third was more tactical, that your push notification deliverability wasn't up to mark.
Yeah.
And the platform hence was not being fully utilized.
Yeah. And we weren't getting a full picture of all of our communications with our customers, nor were we able to sort of manage the end-to-end user journey with all of our communication channels.
Got it. Thank you. I made a note of that as well. Thank you. I'll get back to you on, you identified that time to probably find something better in the market. What happened from there? I'll throw the same question to Fajar now. Fajar, at what stage you guys realized it was time to find a better alternative in the market?
So this happened, I think, towards the end of quarter Q4 last year, right? Where we need to cut costs as much as possible. And to be honest with you guys, we're quite happy with the current tools that we were using prior to MoEngage. But the problem with them is that the cost of using their service is just crazily expensive, especially when we do combination of multi-channel like push notification and emails. We send quite a lot of emails, and then we will always need to have additional quota from them in order to fulfill our need, right? So based on that, then we start looking for alternative. And due to the experience that we had with the other tools that I mentioned earlier, we know exactly, we kind of know exactly what we need in terms of, for example, segmentation. We need to be able to segment user based on what they did in the platform, based on where they are. So all those things are requirements that we have. So we went out and see whether or not there are good alternatives that can replace the tools that we had before, but at the same time have same or even more capabilities than the tools that we had before, right? So one other thing that kind of bother us also, other than the cost, is the lack of local support, right? I think if you work with US company and they don't have presence here, it's going to be very difficult if you have challenge, and most of them they don't have like chat channel to communicate with them, right? It's always with support page, and then they will reply with email, which is kind of something that we don't want, right? We always want almost immediate response, right? I chat something, and then few minutes after that, there is a response from the partner, right? So that's something that kind of we put into the requirement also. So when we look for replacement, we look for a capability wise that offer similar function or capabilities, but then offer lower cost. But and the plus point is if they have a local support, right? We used to work with services that don't have local support, but having someone that has local support is something that is a plus for us.
Thank you, Fajar. So two key things, takeaways for me and for the audience. First one was very happy with the old platform, but cost became a big problem. And the second is lack of local support in Jakarta. People who live locally, people who can support locally, people who can, outside of email tickets and all that, can also communicate on WhatsApp, can be available when you need them, where you need them.
Yeah.
Is that fair? Fair summary?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll come back to you. Farrell, same question for you as well, please. What stage did you realize time to start looking for a better alternative in the market?
All right. So larger traditional enterprises like Telekom Malaysia tends to favor solutions from other large established companies with prior experience of dealing with company like us. But as we go along, we can see the appeal of younger companies with newer solutions like MoEngage, right? So you can see that now we are more open to subscribe to solutions like MoEngage, but it does require a shift in mindset and approach, and requires someone from within the large enterprise to push and persevere for these changes to happen. So we wanted to move away because we have this bunch of people that want to make changes in the company. So we want to move away from the sluggish and old school enterprise solution that are to a more modern and exciting software as a service provider. So we want to move from on-premise solution to cloud solution, as you know, because when we are on-premise, our infra is probably not better than AWS or Google Cloud. So we don't want that liability to fall on our technical team. So we just want to want to focus on customers and business. We don't want to be thinking about the infrastructure. And we also want to eliminate the need of system integrator, because often with large company, when we do a project, it's often the solution comes with a system integrator, and they are often contracted in project-based mode, and they're quite expensive. But the more important thing is the project-based mode. It's hard for us to iterate, to test our hypothesis once the project is over, right? So they deliver, they implement it, they enable the features, but we cannot iterate. So we want to move away from that. So that's the main reason that we went for MoEngage.
Thank you. Thank you, Karel. Were there any specific problem statements you were trying to solve at the time? Just before you started looking for an alternative with whatever you was using, what were the problem statements, use cases?
I would say the problem statement is anytime there are changes, anytime there are new requirements from the product team, from the digital assets team, from the web and app team, it's very hard for us to implement the changes because it goes through the system integrator, and then they have to go to the infrastructure team on premise, and it will take quite a long time only for us to enable the use case, the hypothesis that we think will generate business impact. When by the time it is implemented, it will take quite some time until it is implemented. So the learning loop tends to be very slow. Yeah, so that is I think one of the things that we want to improve the most.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. So to sum it up, very hard to implement changes because it's one of those big players in the market that Twitter is moving out of today. Am I allowed to say that? It's all over the news anyway. And getting infrastructure teams involved to make tiny little changes. I've heard that story before. And that's where you can't implement new use cases fast enough to be able to, take opportunity of the revenue that might be on the table. And by the time you implement new use cases, it's too late. Got it. Is that a fair summary?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So scale, a lot of manual stuff, deliverability of push notifications for Tickle Media from Nadine, cost of the platform and local support from Fajar. and being able to work with the big software vendors of the world, which we are not at the moment. Hard to implement changes from Telekom Malaysia. Khairul, Khairul, we never had local support in Malaysia when you came on board, but now we do have people in KL. Was that one of the considerations for you guys?
Because we know that it's a software as a solution service, right? So that's not necessary. We don't necessarily need a local solution. I mean, a local, as long as it's easy to contact, we get immediate updates and fast response time, then we're good with that. So even without local contact, we're very happy with the service. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic.
At first,
thank you for that. Okay, so now we've identified what happened that you needed a new platform, which is what a lot of tech companies are going through today. There's actually quite a few people on this in this audience today who might be going through the similar situation. I'm gonna request my team to do a quick poll. If anybody is using customer engagement platform today, which is not MoEngage, just put it on this. I just want to see how many people are using it, so we will know if the audience is actually using these platforms or not. So back to you, Fajar. You realized cost cutting is important, local support is important. I will cut short for all of us that finally MoEngage was chosen as a platform. I don't want us to go into why you chose us, because the whole point of choosing a platform is to solve problems. I'll go directly to the problem solving. So roughly, what kind of cost saving have you seen coming on board with MoEngage in percentage terms?
So it's quite a lot. So we're paying less than half what we paid, what we used to pay.
Okay. And from a support perspective, from a product perspective, all the use cases you were able to do, is there anything that we are not able to deliver today? And be honest, I'm happy for the audience to hear it. What are we not able to deliver that you were expecting, and what are we delivering above and beyond that you were not even expecting?
Yeah. So I think our use case is a bit, I would say, maybe niche, right? Because we use card like very heavily. We use card very integrated within our apps. So we use it as a screen to display promotion. We use it as when we do a checkout, and then payment, and there are promotion for credit card. We also use card for that. And then in the home screen, we have banners, and then all the banners are powered by cards, right? So this is one of the main use case, of course, other than like push notification.
Push and all that, yeah.
So one of the challenges that we had while migrating to MoEngage is the capability of segmentation, right? Where we were able to do segmentation, but the segmentation itself is not in real time, right? So that's one of the challenges that we had when we migrated. But your team kind of helped us to kind of find a fallback solution, while like they said that you guys are trying to improve, right? So what we ended up implementing is we ended up to have a default banner or default card, while the segmentation is not yet fully kicked in.
Yeah, so segment kicks in and then the card gets changed automatically. That's the use case. Okay, got it. And the support from the local team based in Jakarta, I think top of my head, we have about 35 people in the Jakarta office today. Most of them are implementation managers and customer success managers. Your previous vendor was based in Singapore. Is it an honest question? Is it the cultural difference, the language difference that local people add more value? Where do you think is or what exactly is it that local people are able to support better?
So I think there are two things, right? I think culture difference is one thing, and the implication of culture difference is also in how we communicate, right? For example, local, like Indonesian, like if you have Indonesian support, usually they don't mind communicating with WhatsApp or Slack, where if you speak with Singaporean or even US support, sometimes they have standard operating
email.
procedure.
Yeah.
So this is one thing, and the other thing is not, especially my team who are engineers, right? Their English are not usually very good. So having someone that they can speak their Bahasa Indonesia with, it's a plus, so that they can find what the root problem is and then very quickly find the solution for that. Where usually when they need to speak in English, it's kind of two-step process, right? They first thing in Indo, and then they kind of translate it on the fly. And sometimes it's very hard to understand what they're trying to communicate.
Thank you for that. So we don't have anybody from the Philippines on this panel today. 2.5 years ago, my story when I joined MoEngage, and I've been in the Asia market for a good decade now. And that's exactly what everyone used to tell me, that all of the support sitting in Australia, US, or Singapore isn't going to be the way how SaaS companies are going to scale. You're going to have to localize support, localize customer success, localize solution architecture. So that's what we started investing in starting 2020 when I came on board here at MoEngage. And the first step for us was to build out our Indonesia market. We already had about 35 customers in Indonesia back in 2020. Today, we've reached a scale of about 120 customers in Indonesia. But when I joined here, we had about 4 people in Jakarta office, and today we have 30 plus. Most of the investment has gone into customer success, implementation. We have one local HR person to look after our local team, and a massive local office, which is the reason customers like you, HappyFresh, see the value. Where do you see the value is being able to communicate with local people at a local level. Plus, once somebody comes on board with us as a customer, one thing we religiously do is to support them. So if you see any MoEngage people in Indonesia buying groceries from HappyFresh, that definitely happened after you guys came on board. Because all across the board, if anybody comes on board with us, we all want to support them as customers as well. That's something we do across the company. So thanks for that, Fajar. Nadine, once you guys came on board, you mentioned you had issues across scalability, push deliverability. A lot of things were manual. Have we been able to cater to these problems you had? Have we done something that we were supposed to, but we couldn't? And have we done something that you were not expecting, but we've actually surprised you by doing that as well?
So yeah, we have definitely been able to scale up and scale quickly and minimize the use of engineering resources when we want to experiment or kind of launch new communication. Like we recently launched a community newsletter that is very quickly driving close to 20,000 user visits to the app per month. And it would have been very difficult and painful to do it with some of our previous clients. We also sort of, it has much better analytics and end-to-end users, and we now have more channels. We use more channels than we used to. On-site, on-app notifications is something that we're experimenting more and more with, and they drive very good revenue conversion as well. So these are all things that, like, we didn't even have to ask an engineer to sort of start launching and playing around with. One of the things that sort of really stands out is anytime you're coming up with something new, or you look at our business and our business needs, and we're not using something optimally, or there is something that you're developing that we could be using, your team is always kind of communicating with us and really finding out, especially the quarterly reviews, how have our needs evolved? What new things do we need, and what can we do better? So, we've definitely been adopting, sometimes being early adopters of things that sort of you're beginning to build. One thing we wanted to do more of was kind of actual, on-site personalization and feature personalization. At the time we were beginning to look at that, you were still building it, and as time has moved on, more and more personalization is coming into play.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nadine. We actually released web personalization 3 weeks ago.
Yep.
So our competitor in that space was going to be Google Optimize. So
Right.
Google announced they're shutting down Optimize on the Monday, and we were having a big party in the office because we were launching our web personalization on Wednesday. So our competition decided to shut down 2 days after we were about to launch our platform.
They were
And we've
afraid.
already got a lot of POCs going on there. So that's a sign from God. We started building that product almost 8 months back. We release it on a Wednesday, and 2 days before that, competition is shutting down their service, which is great for us. And Google were not making any major revenue from that. So it was a good to have rather than a must have. Great news for us. Web personalization is out now. I'm sure your team would want to try it. So, and I look forward to hosting probably another webinar in 6 months' time to get your feedback and share that feedback with the rest of the world. Nadine, one question there. Again, migrating is a tough job from one vendor to another, at least in our industry, because it's not just a basic JavaScript. You have an SDK, you have the old data, and probably same question for you, Pajar, as well. As the CTO and CPTO, what are the main risks you're carrying when you're trying to migrate from one vendor to another, and how do you mitigate those risks? Pajar, you first.
Yes. So I think the biggest risk for us is our customer, right? Being able to reach our customer when we have a new tools on board, right? Because the way that HappyFresh, the way that our business work is that during the pandemic, our usage is just shooting up to the roof, right? And when the pandemic start to end, then the usage becoming less and less. And we migrated right after the pandemic ends, right? So there are a lot of big chunk of our users that use us when the pandemic was on, which is not reachable to us now. I mean, we cannot reach them now because they haven't yet upgrade their apps, right? So this is one risk that we knew coming, right? One of the things that we kind of mitigate is we want to have platform that can speak to the customer, our customer, within multi-channel, right? For example, if the user is not yet have the latest build, therefore they don't have MoEngage, we can direct the communication through SMS or through WhatsApp or through email or through whatever, right? Being able to create a workflow with that intelligence is something that we require to mitigate the risk. The second one that we have is, like I mentioned earlier, our app is heavily rely on cards, right? Meaning that we have a very deep integration with MoEngage now, but prior having with you guys, we have a deeply integration with the other tools, right? I think the risk is immense because it's all over the code, it's entangled all over the place, right? I think unless we deep dive in, start the migration, and then test it, we would not be able to see or foresee what would be the potential challenge. Luckily, there are some challenges, but no, not major challenges. I think those are the two risks, the big risks that we had prior to migrating. But for us, this risk is something that we had to take. We had no other choice other than leaving the other tools, just because the cost is something that we cannot afford now.
Understood. Top of my head, I think 45 days from the day you guys decided to come on board, and the initial SDK went live in 45 days, and then we had to do a little bit more work on the cards feature. But the initial one was, I think your involvement as CTO made things easier for our team as well, because you understand technology really well. And that's what I suggest to a lot of companies. If you're looking to migrate, find the right platform for the next 4 years, but assign technology champions at your end who can oversee migration from a technology perspective. When technology champions are sitting up on the top, migrations become very fast because people at your level would have done these things many times. You'll know things that your younger engineers might not know today, but your experience would make things a little bit more smoother at least. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Okay. Nadine, any takeaways we can get from you in terms of what risks were you carrying during migration? How did you identify those risks? How did you put mitigation plan in place?
Sure. Unlike Fajar, who was using already a kind of a mature CRM, we were really pulling together from a system that wasn't optimally using CRM, etc. And we have a lot of scale, a lot of traffic going on. So we took a few months to migrate. We migrated in phases just to sort of make sure that we were able to capture and roll things out in an optimal way. And that's how we mitigated the risk, because there were so many unknowns, and we were really sort of putting together our part of the system, not just integrating an existing system with your system. It wasn't plug and play.
Got it. And I think having a Slack channel activated between the two companies helped a lot. I was monitoring that Slack channel 2 years ago when you guys first came on board. Any questions coming in, any requests coming in, we were all setting up calls quickly, jumping on calls and getting things moving in the right direction. So thanks for that. We don't have a Slack channel with Khairul and team. I don't know if you guys use Slack or not.
No, we don't. Yeah.
Okay, so Telekom Malaysia, being a big enterprise, probably still use Teams.
Yes.
But we have a Slack channel with HappyFresh team and Tickle Media team. Pretty much with every customer who uses Slack, day one will initiate a Slack channel. Things become very fast in terms of initial integration and moving towards operational excellence afterwards and supporting them. I can't recall if you were very deeply integrated into the previous platform, but were there any risks, Khairul, that you were carrying in terms of being able to migrate?
Not really. When we started, because this is a large company, there are few departments that's in charge of this. But when we started, it was mainly about getting the users from our digital assets, from the web and app, which we don't have any solutions prior to that before. So it's quite a straightforward implementation. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Thanks for that. I've got a bunch of more questions as well, but before that, if anybody's got any question, please put it on the chat group and I'll make a small announcement. We have a big physical event here in Kuala Lumpur on the 2nd of March. Khairul is going to be one of our keynote speakers on that day. It is at Lee Meridian in Petaling Jaya. And if anybody wants to join in, I'm going to request Pankuri from my marketing team to put the link on chat. So you're very welcome to register. I'll be there as well with the rest of the MoEngage team. But more importantly, Khairul is going to be there sharing more experience across multiple channels that Telekom Malaysia use. We'll have keynote speakers from Atomi, companies like iMoney, CTOS, Carsum, MyBoost, which are big brands here in Malaysia. So please do register. Okay, moving forward. So now we've identified the problem statements. We've assigned MoEngage as a vendor. We identify a few gaps. We mitigate those gaps, and we get to business as usual. Fast forward from here. So there are best of breed platforms. There are big bloated companies, and there's this value platform that we built here at MoEngage. You got your analytics, segmentation, predictions, push amplification, built-in WhatsApp messaging. And now I see CFOs getting involved in a lot of decision making. So there's top-down pressure on get one platform that can do everything. Don't put 30 platforms together and try and stitch them together. I personally do see value in 30 platforms together as well, but it comes down to use cases and problem statements you're trying to solve. In internet-first companies like HappyFresh and Parent Inc. and telcos like Telekom Malaysia, what's the future going to be? Are you seeing any internal consolidation still going on outside of customer engagement, within customer engagement? Let's start with Khairul.
I think it's a very subjective question. It really depends who's in charge, right? So me personally, I like a solution that is composable, right? Not a single solution that can provide everything, right? I like things that are easily integrated with other solutions, and you can mix up all these solutions like Lego, and then you figure out what you want, exactly what you want, and then you integrate everything together. But also there are another school of thoughts where they want that one large solutions that have a lot of small solutions underneath, and then for them it's about making the integration among the apps and all the solution easier. So it's very hard to say right now. Really depends on who is in charge, but I cannot say. But previously it was about one company and one solution providing end-to-end solution, and then we started to move away from that composability. But right now, I think we might go back to one solution for all. I mean, one larger solution for all these use cases that we see.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you. There's a question in chat from Abbas Alvi. What is the difference between MoEngage and CleverTap? Anybody in this panel who's interacted with CleverTap?
Yeah. Telekom Malaysia, we have engaged with CleverTap. We have engaged with MoEngage, right? In terms, I just be very honest. In terms of features, right? Pretty much, I'm not to say it's the same, but pretty much most of the software as a service provider, they tend to copy each other, right? The features you guys tend to copy each other. So MoEngage and CleverTap, I think among the ones that quite up to date with their features. But of course there are some pros and cons if you compare them. But what really the differentiator for us, because we evaluated both, is sometimes it's not necessarily the technology, sometimes it's beyond that. Sometimes it's the people you work with, how easy for us to negotiate, and then how, especially for Telekom Malaysia, how does the company, the vendor, respond to our to our red tapes, right? Because we have a lot of red tapes, we have a lot of RFQ clauses that you need to respond to, and then I think MoEngage shines there. They really know how to deal with companies that have a lot of processes, and then make it easy because when we are doing evaluation, it's not just me as a user, it's everyone in the procurement department, the information security department, the finance department. Everyone will have a say, and then it's not enough to just have a good product. You need to know how to deal with these positions that will do the evaluation within the large enterprises. So it's not necessarily just the features, but those human elements that I think MoEngage shines a lot. They're very easy to work with, and it's easy for us to talk to them, easy for us to negotiate, and they really understand and work very hard to cater to our processes. Yeah.
Thank you, Khairul. Thank you so much, Abbas. I hope that gives you some inclination on differences. In my view, I think all of us are trying to help the customer one way or the other. Product differences aside, I encourage buyers to look at the differences as company overall. If you see that these platforms are as good as people using them. So our jobs here is to make people better in terms of using our platform, and we can only do it when we are allowed to work with people. And that's where we differentiate. It's not just the tech, it's also the way we operate. Slack channels as an example. So CleverTap's not allowed to set up Slack channels with their customers. That's what we hear all the time. You're not allowed to call them on WhatsApp. You've got to submit an email ticket and they'll reply back on email. They don't have customer success managers here in, I don't know, Bas, which country do you live in? Where are you joining in from? But their team's not in the market. They have resources in Singapore, good company, we respect them. But our approach is we want to be able to support companies locally. So we've invested in teams locally.
Yeah, I think it's even small things like that it does make a lot of difference. Like I don't really want to create a ticket every time there's a problem. I just want to text you on WhatsApp, right? So it does make a lot of difference. Yeah.
Like Fajar texted me on WhatsApp this morning, and first thing I wake up and I'm like, yes, Fajar, I'll get it done. I'll do it straight after the webinar. Before we go ahead, there's one more question. Any example of most successful campaign run using MoEngage? Nadeem, do you have any? Are you aware of what's the team doing on the platform, or would that be a question for somebody in your marketing team?
Yeah, Kunal or Harini possibly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Abbas will check with Kunal and Harini from Tickle Media team on any examples, and we'll try and email it to you. Fajar, has your team started doing campaigns actively? Are you aware of any successful campaigns?
Yes, I know that they're doing a lot of campaigns now, but to be honest, I don't have the details because my marketing team is the one who's running the campaigns.
Okay, Khairul, would you know any?
Can you please repeat that, Saurabh?
I know I know that when a campaign is successful, is sometimes I get alert in my infrastructure because some services are degrading.
They went up.
Yeah. So there are few alerts that went down a few weeks ago. So I assume the campaign was pretty successful.
Got it. Sorry, Khairul, there's a question on chat from Mr. Abbas Alvi.
On chat. Okay,
Use any examples of most successful campaigns run using MoEngage?
MoEngage, I think the star of the campaign implementation is our cart abandonment, right? So before this, we didn't do any cart abandonment campaign at all. So it was the most successful one. We have pretty good conversion rate, and then the open, we contact the customer via push notification, email. The open rate is good, the click-through is good, and then the conversion is very encouraging. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you. I'll go back to the question I was asking earlier. The future of tech stacks, is it consolidation into as less as possible stacks, which will mean you don't have reliance on a lot of them? Or maybe you continue distributing, you have your WhatsApp provider, you have your SMS provider, you have a customer engagement provider separately, push platform separately, email separately, and analytics separately. Nadine, what's your view on that as CPTO of Tickle Media Parenting?
So if there is one company that sort of meets all our needs, for example, if we're using some module already with them, we'll probably, all things being equal, lean to getting more functionality from them, just because of existing relationships, ease of integration, and so on. But sometimes they just don't have that functionality, right? And rather than sort of having to completely migrate to a different platform, it would be best to be able to sort of get a module from somewhere else and continue to use the whatever we're already using with the main vendor. At the moment, the way things are developing, that's kind of where I'm, whenever I have to do sort of a selection of vendors, I'm seeing those advantages there.
Got it. Thank you. Sorry, Fajar, I'll come back to you. I missed a question from Asirif Rasol. Is that how I pronounce it? We have a custom system that we use. Is there any possible way to integrate with MoEngage and not migrate to MoEngage? I think we need to understand what you mean by custom system. I won't throw this question at panelists. I'm sure my team has your details. I'll get back in touch, or I'll get somebody from my team to get in touch with you so we can understand what custom system mean and if there's a way to integrate. So leave that with us, please. But thanks a lot for your question. Fajar, you've seen technology world a lot, all the way from Yahoo to today. What's the most old legacy system you guys still use? Is there something? Yeah.
Oh, I don't remember. I think we had, yeah.
Okay, and you've used multiple platforms. Now you've consolidated everything here. What would trigger going back to an approach where you don't need to consolidate and you've got 50 different platforms all together? Is there a technology anecdote from your life working in technology so long where you had consolidation done, but then you decided to deconsolidate and move away?
So I always believe in the ecosystem of technology stacks, right? I think we tend to pick services who works well within that ecosystem or works well with other services. Like, for example, one of the reasons why we pick you guys is because we have integration with Mixpanel. You guys have integration with S3. You have a stream, right, where you can stream event data from MoEngage to Mixpanel. So the way that I look at it is that this ecosystem needs to work well with each other so that user like us can pick and choose whatever we want, right? And I think Nadine also mentioned this, like, for example, we are on Mixpanel, right? And we've been with them for, I think, a year now. And you guys also have analytics, right? For us to migrate from Mixpanel to you guys with no strong reason is very, very difficult, right? I think technology-wise, it's plug and play, right? But from user perspective, our analytics team, they very used to Mixpanel, and there are many dashboards that they need to migrate. So being able to just integrate with other services is something that we tend to prioritize.
Yes, look, as consolidation becomes commonplace, another important thing is integration with best of breed platforms, which Mixpanel is for product analytics. And that's the journey we embarked on a good 3 years ago. Mixpanel was one of the first ones we integrated with. Some of the new ones we are doing now is with communication platforms. So WhatsApp as a channel will be natively available on MoEngage. It's already available from 2 partners that we work with, but we are opening up lines with other partners also. So WhatsApp becomes plug and play as well, which makes things a lot easier, like to run reacquisition campaigns. Somebody uninstalled the app, somebody dropped out of the cart without completing the purchase. Rather than just emailing, you can also try and ping them on WhatsApp, where conversion rates are very, very high at the moment. So thanks for sharing that. We have 6 more minutes. I think we'll take this towards closing. Any further questions, please feel free to put it on chat. One more small announcement. We are doing a Ramadan Connect dinner in Jakarta. And anybody who's living in Jakarta, if you'd like to come and meet our customers, the partners we work with, please register. I'll request Pankuri from my team to share the link on chat. I'll personally attend this myself as well. So I look forward to meeting a few people when I'm in Jakarta. And in closing, I'd personally like to thank the 3 of you who've joined us. I've taken a lot of your time, so thanks for that. Any plans for integration with other channels similar to WhatsApp, example, Viber? Yep, we already support all these channels. We support Viber through companies that have Viber API access. It's not a direct integration, but we already support that. We've got customers in the Philippines who are actively using Viber. So if you have a use case, please reach out to us. We've tested Line for Japan, Thailand also. In fact, we've tested and integrated with Zalo for Vietnam as well. So that's already available. Feel free to ping us. Any closing statement before we finish the call? Fajar, can we start with you, please?
I think for us, right, the main important part is to have partner who can support us along the way since the implementation and also support, and also to have a system or service that can reach out our customer with the capability that is very, very robust. I think that's something that is important for us, and that's what the business needs. Okay, thank you. Noted. Khairul, any closing statement, please?
Right. I think I'll come from our angle is that we tend to anytime we have a new implementation plan, we tend to build this massive projects, right? But my statement would be, my advice would be, try to keep it simple and don't try to do everything at once. And then also start with customers rather than technology, and then you work your way backward instead of focusing
from there.
Yeah, focusing on the projects, focus on getting results, business impact from the customer first with whatever tools we have. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll share with the audience. We'd invited Khairul to one of our physical events in Singapore, and he shared that he was getting difficulty internally getting technical resources, so he ended up doing the technical integration himself. And somebody from the audience, correct me if I'm wrong, Khairul, that was a good 18 months ago. Somebody from the audience asked, so how did you get away with internal processes and policies? So he said, yeah, I did it, and then I asked for forgiveness later. So just fast track the entire integration as just one guy integrated everything. And 2.5 years later, here we are with multiple use cases already up and running. So over the years, I've heard such wisdom, full of wisdom statements from Khairul. Every time I'm surprised, how can one guy do so many things? And 2 minutes to go, Nadine, any closing statement before we wrap up for today?
Yeah, I think the common thread amongst all the panelists is really kind of working with a partner is really important, and working with MoEngage end to end, from the moment the salesperson talked to us to all the way to the guys doing technical engineer. All the engineers are a pleasure to talk to and helpful as well, right? And everybody in between, they all care about what our business goals are and solving the problems that we have from all, every point of view.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
And they talk to each other, which is also really important.
Makes life easy for us, right? When they're talking to each other. Engineers in Bombay, engineers in Singapore, Jakarta, etc. makes life easier. 1 hour of your time is an extremely important time for me. Let me just show my gratitude again. You're all very busy people, and taking 1 hour out for us means a lot. I'll personally come and see you at some stage and thank you over a lunch or a dinner. We really appreciate this partnership, this relationship that we've forged with your companies. And we are right on time to close the call. And thank you again for joining us. Thank you to the audiences for joining us. And please reach out if there's any further questions for us.
Awesome. Thanks for having
Bye-bye.
me.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.